All right, let's go to this now. An outbreak of the African armyworm has ravaged crops in some parts of the Limpopo province. Farmers in the Capricorn, Waterberg as well as Sekhukhune districts have been the hardest hit, with many reporting significant damage to their crops. The African armyworm is one of the most destructive crop pests. The outbreak is also threatening the livelihoods of farmers in the region. Dipepeneneng Serage, Deputy Director General of the Agricultural Production and Biosecurity and Natural Resources organization, joins us now to weigh in on this outbreak. Mr. Serage, we do appreciate your time this afternoon. Thank you so much. So firstly, how big is this armyworm outbreak and which are the most affected areas other than the ones I've mentioned in my intro?
Thank you very much for having us, and good afternoon to your viewers. It is a big problem, but not as big as it's been made out to be. So the problem with it is that sometimes the pest is detected when it's already late, after the damage has already happened. So the areas that you've mentioned are indeed the ones that we're receiving reports from, and we're busy in touch with the farmers to just establish the extent of the damage. But I think we need to point out that African armyworm is not a regulated agricultural pest.
All right. And then is there a specific reason we're currently seeing this large scale of an outbreak? I know you said it's being blown out of proportion, and maybe let's outline some of its direct damage on fresh farm produce, Mr. Serage.
Yeah, I think what farmers need to do, which is a normal farming practice, is that they need to do what we call pest scouting. In other words, they need to be on the lookout so that they are able to pick up the pest when it's still at stages that are controllable by chemicals. In this specific case, African armyworm does have controlled chemicals that are registered for its control, but unfortunately, most of these chemicals are only effective when the pest is still at the young up, still very, very little. As soon as it gets to other stages and it grows, the pesticides do not work. So the farmers ought to have conducted what we call pest scouting. But back to your question, what is likely to have caused it? Obviously, this is the favorable conditions created by the weather, the beautiful weather that we've had recently, the rains and all of that. So the rain and the moisture, and because the African armyworm has got a range of host plants, ranging from potatoes, from maize, and even grasses. So that's what makes it very aggressive, because it feeds on different types of crops. That's where the problem is.
Absolutely. Now, Dr. Serage, as you've mentioned, I mean, that some pesticides are actually not recommended due to their toxic levels. So what can farmers then that find themselves inundated, or, of course, that find themselves heavily invaded by this species, what is the best form then of protection, of prevention, or even safety tips when they want to use something other than the pesticides?
No, maybe let's put that correctly. There are pesticides that are registered for use, in controlling the armyworm. In this case, African armyworm. The caution we are saying is that because when it reaches other stages, so in other words, the pest has got different life cycles, so it's got different stages of growth. Mm-hmm. Once it reaches maturity, at that stage, the chemicals won't be effective. All you'll be doing is just to put chemicals on the ground and even poison animals if it's in the grasses and all of that. And secondly, by that time, the pest shall have destroyed the crops. So what is important is for farmers to continue scouting. Even farmers that are not in the areas mentioned, they just need to continue doing what we call pest scouting. In other words, they look for it so that it does not reach the adult stage, and the damage by that time would have already happened. So we encourage them to conduct scouting. They know what pest scouting is. Every crop farmer knows that they need to walk around their farms to do pest scouting. That tells you if there are if the extent of the pest on the farm, a specific crop, it requires chemical control.
And do these armyworms then cause any significant health risk to humans or livestock or even pets in any way, Mr. Serage? Should they come into contact with them?
Yes, it does. Unfortunately, on grasses, it also feeds, like I said, it's got a range of host plants that range from maize, from sunflower, maize, the potatoes, soybeans, and in this specific case, grasses. Now, there's grasses that obviously the cattle farmers who they graze their cattle on grasses, especially kikuyu. So if the pest then it happens to be on the attack the kikuyu field, that is the kikuyu basically is the grass that is used to feed animals, that you see the nice, beautiful looking grass on which normally the cows, cattle, especially the dairy cattle, feed on. Now, if there has been this pest and if that portion of the farm has been attacked by this pest, the grass tends to become poisonous. So it's very important that farmers make sure before they graze their cattle on, especially on kikuyu and other grasses, they check, they do what we call pest scouting, look for it, because if it's been there, especially during the adult stages, it tends to poison the grasses.
And a very quick one, we're out of time, Dr. Serage. I mean, are you assisting those farmers as the department in terms, particularly those emerging farmers, when it comes to your issues like pest scouting?
We will try and assist, but let me make this very clear. African armyworm is not a regulated pest. What this means is that it's not considered a
All right, I think we've lost Mr. Serage there. That was Mr. Dipepeneneng Serage, DDG Agricultural Production, as well as Biosecurity, talking to us about the armyworm, of course, the armyworm outbreak that is currently being reported in parts of Limpopo. They're cautioning farmers to do what they call pest scouting.